Kia ora, I'm Miriam Makamo. The doggies, a harmless flutter or a cruel and dying industry. For years, there's been calls for greyhound racing to be banned because of the high numbers of dogs being put down. But instead, just last month, the government bailed out the whole racing industry, handing out more than $70 million. Some of that will flow through to the greyhounds. Mark Kreisel goes trackside.
Greyhounds. There's an air about them.
You really have to meet a greyhound to understand how special they are.
And when these hounds are released, you realise
they love to race.
they're built for speed.
They run at 16, 17 metres per second at full speed.
It's flat out, if you like a flutter.
It has its people that don't really think it should exist at all, but it's a niche sport for a certain group of people and they love it.
We love the greyhounds, we love to watch them run, they love to run.
That's almost word for word greyhound racing's marketing slogan. But there's also a stubborn, dark shadow hanging over this industry.
We've still got hundreds of dogs a year being put down, despite the reforms, despite the inquiries, despite the government condemning what's happening. It's still happening. Our slogan is, we love our dogs, they love to live. Come on, girls.
Aaron Cross has been nipping at the heels of greyhound racing for more than a decade.
So this is Sally. She never raced, and this is Pippi, and she did race. She's won about 10 races, old Pippi here.
When the industry no longer needed Sally and Pippi, Aaron adopted them.
And what's Pippi done to her leg?
Well, she, there's in the injury reports, there was a couple of races where she suffered a foot injury, and she's actually broken all 4 of her metacarpals, and they've knitted up.
From racing?
Wrong. Yeah, well, we believe it's racing because it's in the steward's reports.
Aaron fell in love with the breed while he was fostering them for a rehoming charity.
I had 3 dogs come through our house, and then the 4th one was really badly behaved, was raced with a fever, as I was told. He attacked a smaller dog, and he was put down, and I thought, well, you know, this is pretty sad.
Something didn't feel right.
This is for fun and entertainment and people's enjoyment. This is not curing cancer or doing anything of worth. This is gambling. It's essentially a vice.
So Aaron, a computer programmer, started to take a good, hard look at the sport of greyhound racing.
Now, at that time, around 2010, 2011, the industry was declaring the dogs that they were euthanizing at the track.
But a power flash, there's a tumble at the first corner.
After watching race after race
there's a tumble there.
and poring over stewards' reports, Aaron was shocked.
I don't even know what to say about that race.
Greyhounds dying in their hundreds every year to keep the industry going.
It was when I discovered a race where there were 2 dogs euthanized and a race event where there were 3 dogs euthanized that the alarm bells went off, basically. I thought, there's really something here.
This is the treatment. We do get greyhounds that come in here. They may come here and use us as their primary veterinary clinic. This is the treatment.
Associate Professor Nick Cave of Massey University's School of Veterinary Science.
Ultimately, it's the owner's animal, and they have the right to request euthanasia. And as long as it is done in a humane way without suffering, then we will do that. But there are some injuries that are so severe that you may decide that euthanasia is the best option.
Dr. Cave led an industry-sponsored study into the effects of racing on greyhounds.
We took racing greyhounds and we sedated them and then put them through the CT scanner.
His research showed the enormous stress of racing on a greyhound's hocks, a joint on their back legs.
The faster it races, the harder it corners. If the track is slippery, if there are dogs that are jostling for position at the moment of vulnerability, all of those factors will increase the risk of fracture.
And that can be catastrophic.
Here is a central tarsal bone that has fractured during cornering, and you can see it has fragmented into multiple pieces that would be impossible to repair.
Just about exploded.
It has shattered, yes.
Would you still be seeing these sorts of fractures on greyhounds when they stop racing?
No, this sort of fracture is the result of that high energy, intense racing activity.
Bit of a gap to Hands of Steel.
But racing injuries aren't the only reason greyhounds are being put down.
One's in big trouble here.
The industry's main driver is to have more than enough dogs to run racing. If there's not enough dogs to run racing, well, their financial livelihoods are at risk.
Hundreds of dogs are also euthanised every year because they can't be rehomed as pets.
If a dog's worth is in how much money they bring in, what worth do they have when they don't bring any in? There's a real pressure to put a lot of dogs into homes really quickly, and it's just a volumes issue, and there's just too many dogs and not enough homes.
In 2017, Racing Board Chair Glenda Hughes commissioned an independent review into the greyhound industry. What concerns did you have about greyhound welfare in this country?
I didn't really have anything, and that was why I actually wanted to do the investigation.
The Hansen report found an unacceptable number of greyhounds were being euthanised. 1,447 in the 4 racing seasons between 2013 and 2017. And alarmingly, 1,271 greyhounds unaccounted for.
It's like I'm calling the police because of a domestic violence issue next door and I'm ignored for 10 years.
Why didn't you have concerns? There were missing dogs, hundreds being euthanised, too many being bred?
Yes, there were certain people who were claiming that, and there were other people that were claiming it wasn't happening. So my view of that, without being smart, having been a former investigator, I wanted a proper baseline sheet to know what I was working from.
The industry now had a damning baseline, and it needed to clean up. Can you see how some people would see this, though, as unacceptable?
Yeah, I can understand that, but my view of it is this. The difference between me and those people is they don't believe that animals or greyhounds or anything should race.
No one's taken their dogs away. We're just asking them to stop putting them in harm's way for money.
You want to stop racing?
Absolutely.
When we come back, 3 years on, has anything changed? How many dogs are still dying?
As far as the industry is declaring, we're still looking at a dog a day killed for an entertainment industry.
Is there an acceptable number of dogs that die for this to continue? Greyhound racing was the first sport back after COVID lockdown. So who's this?
This is Rick.
Hey, Rick. It's race day at the Auckland Greyhound Club's Manukau track for Rick and Emma Potts. Emma's an upcoming star, Young Trainer of the Year.
I mean, how much do you care for these animals?
Oh, with everything I have. You want them to run to the best that they can do, but getting around the track on 4 legs and being able to take them home every night after racing, it's a big deal. Oh, kind of.
A greyhound's racing career averages out at around 1.5 years. By the time they're 4 or 5 years old, it's time to retire.
Is it hard to let them go when their racing is over?
It is hard to let them go. You kind of get oh, that's my dog, going to go to someone else, but yeah, you just got to think they'll live the rest of their life on the couch, so it's good for them, yeah.
This is our green block.
This is where greyhounds go when they can no longer race.
They've never experienced things like hoovering, microwaves, carpet, and anything like that is all brand new to them.
Greyhound Racing New Zealand's new rehoming facility near Levin, a sort of a halfway house between racing and domesticity.
This is Dewey. He came in and he needed a little bit of work with the white fluffy dogs.
Manager Candice Robbins-Goodman says learning how to be a pet includes getting to know other dogs.
Good boy, Rocky. They've only ever seen a greyhound, so that's all they know. And so then we introduce them to other breeds of dogs, and they want to investigate or even chase, because that's what they love to do. So we spend time with them to introduce them and recognise them as dogs, and then they do, and then they become friends.
These are mates now, yeah?
Yeah, they're all mates. Yeah.
Here they're checked over by a vet, vaccinated, desexed, their teeth and nails done, reprogrammed, then rehomed.
Well, we actually have lists of people waiting for greyhounds, so the issue we have at the moment is we can't keep up with the demand.
Every dog that's come through this facility since it opened in August has been rehomed. How hard would it be for you to euthanise one, if you had to?
It would break my heart. My personal opinion is to give everything we possibly can to every single dog, because every life is worth as much as the next. So it would absolutely break my heart if we had to do that.
But 297 dogs were still put down last season because they couldn't be rehomed, according to Greyhound Racing's annual report. It was also a rough year on the track. It's something no one likes to see.
Have you ever lost any greyhounds yourself?
Couple? Myself? Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, I'm not going to go into that.
Okay. Well, it's something that happened on the track, though.
Yep. Yep.
Is it just hard to talk about, is it?
It is. It is. But like I said, every industry has its negative points, doesn't it?
The last season recorded was actually the worst on record, with 54 dogs being euthanased at race events due to the severity of their injuries.
Aaron Cross of the Greyhound Protection League says that's a total of 351 dogs a year paying the ultimate price.
This is the new and improved greyhound racing. A dog a day killed for entertainment.
The Monaco track has seen its share.
So 7 have died at this track this year.
Yeah.
There is a chance that we could see one today, potentially, isn't there?
Yes, there's a chance, but I think you'll find that the 7 that have died at this track were earlier in the season. Since we've had the whole track redone, there hasn't been anywhere near that number.
Remember, Glenda Hughes was the chair of the racing board who commissioned the Hansen report. She's a former police officer, Commonwealth Games shot putter and crisis comms expert.
How many dogs have you got at the moment, Rob?
I've got 6 at home.
Have you?
Yeah.
And since October last year, Glenda Hughes has been Greyhound Racing's chief executive.
We looked at the figures from your annual reports. So the last 2 seasons, 353 and 297 euthanased. Now, both of those numbers are higher than 2 of the years reviewed by the Hansen report. So you are still killing quite large numbers.
So firstly, what I'd say is one of the problems with the Hansen report was the records weren't good, so we don't know.
Well, but how do you know that you're euthanasing fewer?
Because we now record them and they weren't recorded before to the same extent. We've got a better system now to manage them all.
Remember the 1,271 missing dogs that rang alarm bells in the Hansen report? They've found them. Well, most of them.
There were about, I think, 220 that had been euthanised over the 4 years. Something like 39% of them are still in the industry. I think it's 29% that, hold it to me, are rehomed. And we've got about 11% that we actually still can't completely tell you where they are.
In the best case scenario, we're relying on the honesty of people in the racing industry. It's a self-regulated industry. There's not an independent person coming from an animal welfare angle saying, look, you know, the dog's welfare is primary here.
This season, Greyhound Racing says it's improved track safety and is rehoming more dogs than ever.
Have you reduced the number of dogs being put down then?
Yes, substantially.
With 1 month until the end of the season, 151 greyhounds have been euthanised because they couldn't be rehomed, and 23 after track injuries. Even allowing for COVID lockdown, that's close to half what it was last year.
It's a reality, though, even with all the safety improvements that you've made, that dogs are going to die, that you can't make it safe enough.
Well, you can't make the roads safe enough. You can't make racing cars safe enough. There is always going to be something that's going to happen, but you can minimise it, which is basically what we're doing.
Is there an acceptable number for you or for the industry of dogs that die for this to continue?
I mean, I can't sit here and say that I'm happy about any dogs being euthanised, because I'm not. Some of them have to be. And I understand that, you know, especially injury-wise, I mean, we always say only one death is not acceptable. But that's a philosophical argument that you're never going to win.
It's entertainment purposes, it's for gambling, it's for a degenerate vice. How do you justify killing such beautiful animals for a 30-second race and people at the TAB?
These are challenging days for greyhound racing. Some tracks like Forbury Park in Dunedin have not reopened post-COVID.
With the reforms and the industry stumbling around financially, it's time to close tracks. So these guys here are winding down now, so we can chalk this one up as a win.
If you were a gambler, would you take a punt on the doggies? The government has. Some of the $72.5 million post-COVID payout to the racing industry will end up with the greyhounds. Do you think this industry has a future? Is it a good fit for the 21st century? There's only 8 countries still have greyhound racing.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Will it
think
last?
On condition that it maintains its social licence. And all of our people know the social licence is how we look after the animals. And if we don't look after the animals properly, then we're heading down a really bad track. But if we look after the animals, then yes, I do think it's sustainable.
I don't think it has a future. I mean, it should have been banned by now. It will be banned.
Well, the SPCA says it opposes greyhound racing because of significant animal welfare concerns. What do you think? Go to our Facebook page to share your thoughts.